36 layers of white. They will find this testimony in the tea house where I performed for 17 years, hidden beneath the tatami in the room where I prepared myself, the space between performance and truth, between the woman I was and the geisha I became. My name is Akiko Nakamura. I was a geisha in Kyoto's Gion district. I was known for the perfection of my white makeup, for tea ceremonies performed with exquisite precision, for the grace of my movements, and for the absolute stillness of my face. I was also responsible for the deaths of 36 people between 2001 and 2024. The 36th victim is myself. This is why I write this now, with the poison already moving through my veins, with the same deliberate care I applied to every other death. I learned about the stain remover through the underground networks that exist between women who have learned to kill. His confession circulated among us like a manual, a blueprint, proof that what we suspected was possible. That trauma could be transformed into a method, that pain could become purpose, that the abused could become the instrument of removal. I read Kenji Matsumoto's words and recognized myself. Not in the specifics. Our methods were different, our locations different, our tools different. But in the fundamental truth, we were both created by the same machinery of abuse, both transformed into human-shaped instruments designed for a single purpose. He removed stains in a dry cleaning shop. I removed them in tea houses and private rooms where powerful men came to forget their wives, their morals, their humanity. This is my confession, my documentation, my final performance. 36 acts performed perfectly, ending with the death of the performer herself. Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Japanese letter, Chinese letter. Childhood, 1980, 11996. I was born into a family that ran a ryokan, a traditional inn, in a small town outside Kyoto. My father managed it. My mother worked the front. My older brother was being groomed to inherit it. I was the mistake, the unnecessary daughter, the mouth to feed that brought no value. My earliest memory, age 4, my father explaining that girls must learn to be useful or they become burdens. He was holding my hand over a candle flame to teach me about consequences. The lesson was about spilling tea. The burn took weeks to heal. I learned to be still, to be silent, to make myself small and unobtrusive, to serve perfectly so that punishment would be unnecessary. It was never enough. The sexual abuse began when I was 6. A guest first, a businessman who stayed frequently, who my father allowed into my room because the man paid extra, because yen was more valuable than daughters. Then my father's brother. Then my father himself. They called it training, preparing me for my future, teaching me what women were for. My mother knew, helped even. She would bathe me beforehand, apply the makeup, fix my hair, dress me in a child-sized yukata, make me beautiful for the men who would unmake me. This is our family's secret revenue, she said once. You are contributing. You should be grateful. I learned to separate, to observe my body from outside it, to exist somewhere else while the physical shell performed its required functions. By age 9, I was no longer a person. I was a doll, a performance, a perfectly still surface with nothing underneath. Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Japanese letter, Chinese letter. The warning signs were there. I know this now. I killed my first animal at age 7, a bird that had been singing too loudly outside my window. I broke its neck. I felt nothing. Buried it in the garden. I set fires in small, controlled ways. Burned the edges of photographs. Melted plastic toys. I watched the paper curl and blacken. The destruction soothed me in ways nothing else did. I was cruel to other children, not overtly, but in subtle ways. Sharing their secrets. Arranging small humiliations. Watching them cry and feeling only curiosity about what tears were for, what purpose they served. I wet the bed until I was 11. Not from fear. I had moved beyond fear into something else. A kind of physical rebellion my conscious mind couldn't articulate. My mother beat me for it. My father made me sleep in the soiled sheets. The guests who used me complained about the smell. I stopped eventually. Not because I gained control, but because my body simply gave up that particular form of protest. By 12, I had become what the psychologists would later call a textbook sociopath, unable to form genuine emotional connections, incapable of empathy, viewing other humans as objects to be manipulated or obstacles to be removed. But I had also become something else, observant, analytical, a perfect student of human behavior, learning to mimic emotions I didn't feel, to perform connections I couldn't experience. This skill would make me an exceptional geisha, and later an exceptional killer. Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Japanese letter, Chinese letter. Transformation, 1996 to 007. At 15, my parents sold me to an akiya, a geisha house in Gion. Not formally, of course. They called it an apprenticeship, an opportunity. But money changed hands. Contracts were signed. I became property of the house. The akasen, the house mother, was named Fumiko. She looked at me with eyes that had seen too many girls like me, recognized immediately what I was. Damaged, yes, but usefully damaged. The kind of emptiness that could be filled with perfect performance. You will forget everything before, she said on my first day. You will become a Jaco, art person, living art. What you are doesn't matter, only what you perform. I was already good at forgetting, good at performing, good at being whatever was required. The training was brutal. 5 years as Meiko, apprentice geisha, learning to walk in tall wooden shoes without falling, to wear an elaborate kimono without sweating, to paint the white makeup so perfectly it looked like porcelain, to serve tea with movements so precise they seemed choreographed, learning shamisen, kodo, dance, and conversation, learning to be witty without being bold, beautiful without being sexual, present without being intrusive, learning to be the perfect fantasy, the art object that breathed. I excelled. Of course I did. I had been training for this since age 6, had been performing for men, becoming what they wanted, perfecting the art of disappearing into a role. The difference now was that I was paid, protected in a way. The abuse was prohibited in the Akya geisha were valuable, and damaging valuable property was bad business. For the first time in my life, my body was my own during the day. I existed to perform, yes, but the performance had rules, boundaries, a script I could follow. I should have felt relieved, gratitude, safety. I felt nothing, because the capacity to feel had been removed from me years ago. Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Japanese letter, Chinese letter. At 20, I graduated from Jaco, full geisha. I took the name Sayuri, small lily. Ironic, given that nothing about me was innocent or pure. But the name was beautiful, and beauty was the business. I performed at Acha tea houses throughout Gion, private parties, corporate events, intimate gatherings for powerful men who paid enormous sums to be entertained by living art. I was popular. My skill was genuine. My performance was flawless. My face, painted white, still as porcelain, revealed nothing. Men found this intriguing, mysterious, alluring. They had no idea that the mystery was emptiness, that beneath the makeup was nothing, that the perfect performance existed because there was no authentic self to conflict with it. I observed them, these powerful men, CEOs, politicians, Yakuza bosses, foreign dignitaries. I learned their patterns, their weaknesses, the things they said when drunk, the ways they treated women when they thought no one important was watching. And I began to recognize them. The ones like my father, like his brother, like the guests at the ryokan who had purchased access to a 6-year-old girl. They were everywhere, in positions of power, respectable, successful, protected by money and status, and the collective agreement that some things were not discussed. I started keeping notes, names, behaviors, evidence, not because I planned to use it, just because observation was my nature. Documentation was how I made sense of the world, but the notes accumulated. The patterns became clear, and eventually I found Kenji Matsumoto's confession. Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Japanese letter, Chinese letter. The first kill, 2001. His name was Hiroshi Tanaka, a politician. I'm 53 years old, married with 3 daughters. He attended parties at my acha regularly. He also visited certain establishments in Kabukicho, the kind where very young girls worked, the kind that existed in legal gray areas, operating through bribes and connections. He told me about it once, drunk on sake, assuming that a geisha would never betray confidence. He described what he did to those girls in detail, laughed about how young they were, how scary. I smiled, poured more sake, responded with perfect, practiced sympathy, and I decided he would be first. I studied poison. Geisha have always known about poison. It's part of our history, our legend. Beautiful women with access to powerful men, knowledge of tea, understanding of chemistry. I chose fugu pufferfish toxin, tetrodotoxin, paralysis, respiratory failure, death. No antidote, virtually undetectable if administered correctly. I acquired it through connections in the fish market. Not difficult when you know which questions to ask and which men appreciate a beautiful woman showing interest in their work. The next time Hiroshi Tanaka attended a party I was serving, I prepared his sake personally, added the toxin during the warming process, served it with perfect grace. He drank, complimented the flavor, continued talking, laughing, being the charming public figure everyone admired. The symptoms began 20 minutes later. Numbness, tingling, difficulty breathing. His companions assumed too much alcohol, called him a car, sent him home. He died in his car before reaching the hospital. Heart attack, the initial report said. Later, after autopsy, bad fugu from a restaurant he'd visited earlier. Tragic, unfortunate, no investigation needed. I felt nothing, no guilt, no satisfaction, just observation. The method worked. The removal was clean. The pattern was established. Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Japanese letter, Chinese letter. The method 2001-2024. 35 more men over 23 years. This averages to 1.52 kills per year, more frequent than Kenji's rate, but still sustainable. Nothing that created obvious patterns. My methods varied. I learned from the stain remover to avoid repetition, but poison remained my primary tool. I had access. I had knowledge. I had the perfect delivery system. Tea ceremony, sake service, private dinners, where a geisha might prepare food. Fugu toxin, aconite from monkshood flowers, ricin extracted from castor beans, arsenic in carefully accumulated doses, digitalis from foxglove. Even simple things, peanut powder for men with allergies, excessive alcohol for men with heart conditions. Each death appeared natural or accidental. Heart attacks, strokes, allergic reactions, food poisoning, the things that kill people regularly, unremarkably. No one suspected the geisha. We are art, beauty, grace. We exist to serve, to please, to create aesthetic perfection. We are not capable of violence. We are delicate flowers, not poisonous ones. This was my armor, the performance that protected me. The white makeup was also a mask, the perfect stillness that revealed nothing. I kept records, as Kenji did. Not names, names didn't matter, but dates, methods, observations, success rates, chemical compounds, dosages, time to die, autopsy results when I could access them. I treated it like my art, refinement through practice, perfection through repetition, mastery through dedication. Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Japanese letter, Chinese letter. My selection criteria were precise. I only killed men who hurt children. Specifically, men who sexually abused children. Men like my father, like the guests at the Ryokan, like Hiroshi Tanaka. I had extensive opportunities to identify them. Men talk when they think no one is listening. They confess to geisha the way Catholics confess to priests, assuming the listener has no agency, no judgment, no power to act. They told me about their hobbies, their preferences, the establishments they visited, the images they collected, the children they had access to through work, family, positions of authority. They told me, and I smiled, and I remembered, and I prepared. Some victims I confirmed through other means: investigation, observation, evidence. I was meticulous, never acted on suspicion alone, only certainty. I told myself I was performing a service, removing dangerous men, protecting children who couldn't protect themselves, creating justice in a system that protected predators. But this was rationalization. The truth: I killed because I could, because I was built for it, because the empty space where empathy should have been had been filled with method instead. I was not saving children. I was completing a pattern that had started when I was 6 years old. I was abused and became the executioner. The victim transforms into the instrument of death. I was exactly what my father made me, a perfect performance with nothing underneath, a beautiful surface hiding mechanical function. Art that killed. Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Japanese letter, Chinese letter. The 35th kill, 2024. His name was Kenji Sato, a doctor, pediatrician, 61 years old, respected in his field, trusted with children. He came to parties at my acha frequently, always professional, always appropriate, always careful. But I had access to his computer during a private party at his home, a skill I'd developed, the ability to move through spaces unseen, to access information while serving tea, while appearing to do nothing, but exist beautifully. I found the images, thousands of them, children, his patients, photographed during examinations, in positions that had nothing to do with medicine. I copied everything, sent it anonymously to the police, waited. Nothing happened. His connections protected him. Lawyers, money, the quiet machinery that protects powerful men who hurt children. So I invited him to a private tea ceremony, just the two of us. An honor, I said, a recognition of his patronage. He accepted eagerly. I prepared the tea myself. Added aconite, wolfsbane, beautiful purple flowers that contain one of nature's most efficient cardiac toxins. We performed the ceremony. Each movement is precise. Each gesture was practiced, the epitome of grace and tradition. He drank, complimented my skill, began to tell me about a new patient, a girl, 9 years old, very beautiful, very trusting. I maintained perfect stillness, perfect composure. The white makeup revealed nothing. The poison worked quickly. Burning sensation, numbness, heart arrhythmia. He collapsed during his 3rd cup. I watched him die, observed the process, note the timeline, confirmed death. Then I called for help. The perfect performance of shock, horror, grief. The geisha discovered her patron had suffered a heart attack during the tea ceremony. Tragic, unexpectedly. No investigation. No autopsy beyond the cursory. He was 61. Heart attacks happen. 35 complete. Pattern proven. Method perfected. And I realized I was ready for the 36th. Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Japanese letter, Chinese letter. The 36th kill today. I have lived 43 years, 17 as a geisha, 23 as a killer, all of it as a performance. I have never been a person, was never allowed to develop into one. The abuse hollowed me out before I could form. The training replaced self with performance. The killing gave me purpose instead of personality. I am 52 years old, like Kenji, when he wrote his confession. And like him, I am tired. The work of maintaining the performance, both the geisha and the killer, has worn me down to nothing. But unlike Kenji, I have no apprentice. No one to pass the work to. No Yuki to take over the mission. And I have realized something important. Of all the predators I removed, I never addressed the first one. The one who made me. My father. He died 10 years ago. Natural causes. Old age. Peaceful, they said. I attended his funeral. Performed grief perfectly. Received condolences with appropriate grace. But he died without consequences, without justice, without understanding what he had created. He made me into a weapon and never faced that weapon's edge. I cannot kill him now. He is beyond my reach, beyond all earthly consequences. But I can kill what he made. I can remove the final stain, the one that has existed for 43 years, pretending to be a woman while being merely a function. I can kill Akiko Nakamura, Sayuri, the geisha, the killer, the performance. The empty vessel was painted white. This is justice. This is completion. This is the 36th and final act. Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Japanese letter, Chinese letter. I have prepared myself as I would for any performance. Applied the white makeup, 36 layers, one for each victim. Each layer applied with the same care I used for every tea ceremony, every death. white foundation, white powder, red lips, black liner, the transformation from person to art object. Except there was never a person, only the art, only the surface. I am wearing my finest kimono, silk the color of deep water, obi tied in the formal style, hair arranged perfectly. Every detail is correct. I have prepared tea, my last ceremony, for myself, in the preparation room where I have transformed from Akiko to Sayuri thousands of times. The tea contains tetrodotoxin, fugu poison, the same method I used for my first kill. Symmetry is important. The pattern must be complete. I have left this confession beneath the tatami, along with my records, 35 names, 35 methods, evidence that cannot be dismissed. They will find me here, in full geisha dress, white face, perfect stillness. Death will look like sleep. I like meditation. I like art. And they will find the confession. And they will understand. The beautiful geisha was also a killer. The art object was also a weapon. The performance was also death. Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Japanese letter, Chinese letter. I am drinking the tea now. Each sip is deliberate, measured, the perfect execution of the ceremony. The taste is bitter, appropriate. Everything about this life has been bitter, even when covered in beautiful surfaces. I feel the numbness beginning. Fingers first, then lips. The toxin works exactly as it should, as it did 35 times before. I am not afraid. Fear requires emotional capacity. I observe the process, document the timeline, note the symptoms. Even now, even dying, I am performing, recording, serving my function. The paralysis is spreading. Breathing becomes difficult. Heart rate irregular. I have perhaps 5 minutes. I want to write that I feel regret, remorse, some final human emotion that would redeem me, make me sympathetic, transform this confession into tragedy instead of documentation. But I feel nothing, just observation, just the mechanical nodding of biological shutdown, just the satisfaction of work completed correctly. 36 victims, 36 successful removals, 36 stains erased from the world. I was made to be a weapon. I fulfilled my purpose. Now I remove the weapon itself. To the psychologists who will study this, you will find all the warning signs, all the risk factors, all the predictable stages. I am your textbook case. Use me well. To the families of my victims, I do not ask for forgiveness. Your loved ones hurt children. I removed them. The math is simple. The morality is yours to determine. To the women who read this and recognize themselves, you are not alone. We are everywhere. The abused who became instruments, the victims who became weapons. We exist in the spaces between performance and truth. Some of us kill, some of us create, some of us disappear. We are all coping with being hollowed out and filled with someone else's purpose. Find better ways. Find different ways. Find ways that don't end here. Breathing is very difficult now. Vision narrowing. Heart struggling. Minutes left. The white makeup is perfect. Will remain perfect even in death. The final performance. The ultimate stillness. 36 layers of white. 36 victims. The numbers align. The pattern completes. I am Akiko Nakamura. I am Sayuri. I am the painted death. I am the performance that killed. I am the 36th victim of my father's creation. And I am finally still. Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Chinese letter, Japanese letter, Chinese letter. Author's note. This story examines female sociopathy and serial killing through the lens of the geisha tradition and severe childhood trauma. Like the stain remover, it explores how extreme abuse can destroy a child's capacity for empathy, creating what appears to be antisocial personality disorder or psychopathy. The character of Akiko/Sayuri represents the particular way women's trauma is often channeled through performance, beauty, and service. How the geisha tradition's emphasis on perfect presentation and emotional suppression could theoretically align with sociopathic tendencies developed through abuse. Her use of poison reflects historical associations between women killers and poisoning, requiring access, patience, and the appearance of harmlessness, as well as the geisha's traditional knowledge of tea, ceremony, and chemistry. 36 victims reference the Buddhist concept of the 36 stratagems and the symbolic importance of this number in Japanese culture. Her final act, suicide, completes the pattern and represents the ultimate act of control over the self that was stolen from her in childhood. This is not a glorification of violence, but an examination of how severe trauma can fundamentally alter human development, and how the performance of femininity can mask profound psychological damage.